How's it going, everybody? And welcome into Catfish and Ice. This is episode 290. It's a special Winter Olympics edition of the podcast. We've never done an Olympics episode in the history of this podcast because I think the last time we had the Winter Olympics, there just wasn't enough going on for us to do an episode because the NHL players weren't playing.
Yeah.
And so this is the first time the NHL players have been back in the Olympics since 2014. I know I've been having a great time watching the preliminary round games, and we have gotten through that. We've reached the qualification round. And so today's episode, we're going to be talking about, of course, our four Preds players that are in the Olympics, how they've looked, what the pathway looks ahead. We've got three players in particular that are on a collision course to be involved in the same matchup in the quarterfinals if the favorites all win their games in the qualification round. So we got to talk about that. But also in today's episode, we want to talk about Team USA and Team Canada because they seem like the overwhelming favorites to play for the gold medal. But I want to talk about those two squads, and also does Team USA need to focus on way before Canada? They got some stuff to take care of first because it's looking like they're going to have a really tough pathway to even get to play Canada in the gold. So we'll talk about that. Got to talk about the trade freeze and when that lifts, which is going to be on February 22nd. So we've still got about 6 days before that trade freeze lifts, and then that's when the floodgates can open. But first of all, this is Chad Mitten, your host, with co-host Max Greenberg, with this matinee afternoon episode on President's Day.
Yep.
So some people got off work today. Max, how are you doing today, man?
Pretty good. About you?
Doing awesome, man. Doing great. The weather is cooperating down here. Finally, it finally feels like Florida, at least for a little bit. How's your weather up there in Tennessee, man?
I'd say it's cooperating. It's been the weather. I mean, it's just this winter. It feels like it's been changing so back and forth. Luckily, it's pretty good right now, but it's been so all over the place.
Yeah, you just never know what's going to happen.
It feels like we're just kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say just, but it feels like we finally just got everything looking back normal since that winter storm that came in a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that was devastating. I hope everyone's having as easy time as they can rebuilding from that for sure. Let's say hi to Johnny in the comments here. Of course, he is representing Canada up in Vancouver. But he says, gentlemen, normally we are all friends here, but barring an upset this week in our semifinal matches, I will see you both of you in HE double hockey sticks on Sunday morning. LOL. All right, Johnny, that is fair enough. And with that, we are brought to you by DraftKings with promo code THPN. I'll tell you about that offer we got going for you right now. And let's get it on the screen right now for YouTube viewers. Let's get everyone up on what the Olympics bracket looks like. It's not like a typical, it's so complicated. I mean, with the goal differential tiebreakers, I mean, it was like solving a massive equation to figure out who was going to be playing who, what teams were playing for, because it's the main tiebreaker was goal differential in head-to-head matchups. And so, for instance, going into USA's final game against Germany, they had to beat Germany by at least 10 goals. And also, what was it? They had to score at least 10 goals and also win by – it was something crazy like that. But that game started off a little shaky. It did. And then finally the floodgates opened and Team USA ended up winning that game, I believe, 5-1. But there's your current Olympics. So everyone advances to the next round out of the group stage. That's a common misconception. So just because you finished last, even in your group play, there were 3 groups, you still get a chance. The whole purpose of it is to reseed everybody. And so you see the qualification round as the next round. And then you've got your teams that already automatically advanced to the quarterfinals of the bracket. And those are your 3 group winners and your best finishing second place team. So is everyone following me on this? Because it's definitely can get complicated. So Canada, obviously the top team, top seed. They won the goal differential over USA. So they're first. Team USA takes the second overall seed. They're waiting in the quarterfinals. You got Slovakia, who wins their group, and they're the third overall seed. And then the best second place team ended up being UC Saros and Eric Haula representing Finland. So we got some Preds players who did make it to the automatic qualifiers. And then real quick, I'm going to run through the qualification matchups here. The winner of Czechia and Denmark will take on Canada. The winner of Sweden and Latvia will take on the United States. And that is, if the favorites hold up there and it ends up being Sweden, that is not going to be a cakewalk for the United States. So we need to take that game very serious. And then next down on the bracket, you got Germany against France, which you would assume Germany handles business there. They will the winner of that matchup will take on Slovakia. Sneaky good team, Slovakia there too. Watch out for them. And then you've got Switzerland. Roman Josi, the captain of Switzerland, scored a big-time goal in their last game, which was, Josi scored his first goal of the Olympics in a 4-3 win over Czechia, a very impressive win for the Swiss. Also had an assist in that game, which brings Josi's point total in these Olympics in 3 games to 2 assists and 1 goal. Switzerland's one loss came to Canada, which no harm, no foul there. I mean, very few teams are going to beat Canada. But other than that, it's been a pretty good Olympics performance for Roman Josi. And so this is where I'm going to start this episode out, Max, is I'm looking at Switzerland, Italy. Italy is overwhelmingly the underdogs.
Yep.
Host nation. They're second in overall medal count, though, in the Winter Olympics. So I'll just throw that in there. But when it comes to the men's hockey, they are definitely outmatched. No offense to them, but assuming Switzerland wins that matchup, you've got a lot of Preds attention to detail here in that next matchup, which will be Finland versus Switzerland. So Roman Josi in Switzerland against UC Saros, Eric Haula, and Finland. A lot of people seem to think that Finland's probably the third best team in this tournament besides USA and Canada. So, Max, what do you first – let's first talk about Saros. I feel like he was the overwhelming storyline when you want to tie it to the Preds in these Olympics.
Yep.
You know, obviously we've already brought this up numerous times. It's time to have a difficult conversation about Saros. You brought that up in the last episode, wisely so on your part, because it's definitely true. And then he opens up the Olympics with a loss. He gives up a goal on his second shot faced in the Olympics as Finland dropped their first game. And Max, I got to be honest, going into the Finland's second game, I was wondering, are they going to bench Saros and go to Korpisalo or go to Kevin Lankinen? And Finland stuck with Saros, and boy, did it pay off with a 34-save gem against their arch rival Sweden. So, Max, tell me what you're seeing as far as our Preds players at the Olympics.
No, I'll say I haven't really watched a ton of these games besides the U.S. just because how timing, a lot of these games are during the day at work, so it's hard to see them. And, I've been trying to keep up as much as I can. And, it didn't seem great for, obviously I was pretty worried about Saros going into these Olympics. I mentioned it on the podcast a few weeks ago. I didn't like what I was seeing. It was kind of time to have that discussion. Good to see right now his, again, at least from what I can tell, his stats look really good now. It looks like I saw like a 1 point, little under a 2 goals against average, which is like nice. A little above a 0.94% save percentage, which is really good to see. Obviously, base stats aren't everything, but that's a good thing to see. From what I heard, it did seem it was actually Johnny who texted me a few days ago that he did seem to genuinely bounce back again after his first outing. So that was good to see there. So, I think Saros, with I think it's kind of he's kind of played consistent. From what it seems, it's been sort of consistent with my opinion, where if he can get good defense and all that in front of him, he'll play well. But who knows what it's like if the defense looks really bad in front of him. So I would say good to see, but it doesn't totally alleviate my worries that he's going to come back from the Olympics just be really good again. Eric Haula and Roman Josi look good as far as the points go. Each look like they're averaging a point a game. It didn't seem like Haula has a goal yet, but that's fine if he can get a point a game, especially on Finland, like we said, is one of the more stacked teams there. So that's good that, he's finding his way. Obviously, Josi's one of the shining stars on Switzerland team.
Yep.
I'm assuming he's their best player. I must admit, don't know a ton of other than roster. I
can speak on that. So when it comes, because I do have the rosters here in front of you. Switzerland is definitely a very top heavy, not a deep team when it comes to NHL talent. You can make a really strong argument that Roman Josi is their best player for sure. But they've also the really controversial. I don't know if you saw this, Max. The really controversial thing that happened involving Switzerland was the very controversial. There's that guy again, Tom Wilson. A hit by Tom Wilson on Kevin Fiala that's going to end his NHL season, breaks his leg. He was one of the top players on Switzerland for sure, along with Josi. Very controversial hit. Max, I don't know if you want to pull that up and look at it. And
I actually didn't really see the hit. So
it's very borderline. And when you look at his past reputation, I mean, it's just one of those things. But then you saw against France, they're calling this guy on France, he's like 6'4" beer league guy, basically. And he took Tom Wilson to school. Oh, yeah. You got to look that up, Max. It is.
Was it towards the end of the game yesterday?
Yes.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
Everyone was talking about Tom Wilson got wrecked by a beer league guy, like a guy that's like nowhere close to being an NHL player. But and France is one of the top underdogs of the entire tournament. But anyway, so that's a tough loss for Switzerland to lose Kevin Fiala, and it also will naturally raise the question of, do these GMs freak out about their top players playing in these Olympics? Of course they do. But a few people were like, do we really want NHL players playing in the Olympics? Yes, of course. Yes. And you think these players...
And they do too.
And I'll tell you right now, some of these players, it means more to them representing their country in the Olympics than it does their NHL team. Yeah. I'm sorry, but I can promise you a lot of them feel that way. Absolutely. They wouldn't miss this for anything. Having pride for your country and playing in the Olympics as a hockey player, it's not like other sports like NFL and NBA where it's just not the same. It doesn't cut the same way. These hockey players, especially these NHL players who play in countries like Slovakia, Czech Republic, this is their Super Bowl, is playing in these Olympics. So they're not going to miss it for anything. So that's just a tired and stupid argument. But it is really tough luck for the LA Kings to lose Kevin Fiala.
And they're like borderline playoff teams. That really is not good news for them at all.
But other really good players, the Swiss team does have some decent quality players. They got Timo Meyer, they got Nino Niederreiter, they got Hershire, they got Pius Suter. So they got some guys, but they're definitely not deep enough to hang with the USAs and the Canadas and probably even the Finlands. We'll see if they can rise to the occasion and beat Finland. That would be a huge upset in the quarterfinals. And they could likely face UC Saros, who, going back to Saros, so he has a .87 save percentage in that opening loss to Slovakia, who ends up getting the 3rd overall seed. So it's not like Slovakia is a bunch of slouches here. But you were really wondering, okay, what is Finland? I was wondering, what is Finland going to do with their goalie decision? And I kind of said this going into the Olympics altogether when I was breaking down each roster. The thing about Finland is their goalie room is just not very strong after Saros. Again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Kevin Lankinen or Joonas Korpisalo, but there's no way, even after that loss to Slovakia, that Saros was going to get benched for one of those two guys. Just wasn't going to happen. Now, if Saros would have came into the Sweden game and given up a couple soft or bad goals in that first period against Sweden, then I could have seen them making a switch and probably go to Kevin Lankinen, I would assume. But who knows? That would have been a difficult decision. But I said going into the Olympics, Finland's goalie room is not particularly strong. So they've kind of they're hoping against hope that Saros pulls himself out of his regular season funk and shows up for the Olympics. He makes the 34 save gem against a really, really good Sweden squad. They're arch rivals. He pretty much made sure Finland got that win and didn't open group play 0-2-0, which would have been such a devastating letdown for Finland, who's a really great hockey country. And so that's like Saros played hero ball in that game against Sweden. He truly did. And Preds fans know that he has that in him. And then they get Italy, which, I mean, at one point I joked around in the Italy game that Finland might end up scoring more goals than Italy ends up getting shots on net. It was that lopsided in that game. And I made jokes that Saros is probably on the other end of the ice catching up on Netflix or filing his taxes or doing something else because he sure as hell isn't getting any action on the ice. But funny enough, later in that game, when obviously the game was already well in hand for Finland, Italy showed a little pushback and actually had a couple odd man rushes and breakaways. And Saros actually did have to make some really good saves in that game.
Has he played in all 3 games?
Albeit the game was pretty much over. What's that?
Has he played in all 3 games?
He has. He has started all 3.
Interesting. I didn't expect that.
Yes. And he only has to make 15 saves against Italy over.
I don't know if I like that decision, honestly, by Finland's coach.
Really?
I mean, wasn't one of those games a back-to-back?
No, maybe. I'm not sure about that. Most of them are spread out, but there are a few back-to-backs in the.
I just swore one of them would be a back-to-back. Let me look.
We'll look at. Yeah, double check me on that. I'm not sure.
Let me look.
But they have stuck with Saros in all 3 games, and against Italy, I mean, they were overwhelming favorites. I mean, they were going to pile on the goals anyway on Italy. So he makes the 15 save shutout. Saros does, so good for him. So
Friday and Saturday. Finland versus Sweden was Friday, and then Saturday versus Italy. I'm surprised they played him versus Italy.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. They probably figured like, okay, we're going against an completely overmatched opponent. Let's get some reps in. For who would you have gone with, Korpisalo or Lankinen?
I don't know if I could confidently answer that.
I would say Lankinen personally, just because he's more of a veteran and he played
for 4 Nations last year, I guess. But as far as I would have given Saros a rest, especially
that makes sense. I see where you're coming
Italy,
from,
knowing that like they're probably because I guess to your point, what did playing really do for him in that game?
I mean, he got his first career Olympics shutout, so he has that in his resume now.
True.
But I totally see where you're coming from. In terms of Erik Haula, because we want to make sure we cover every Preds player here in the Olympics. In terms of Erik Haula, he's getting very minimal ice time for Finland. Finland is a very stacked team. They're arguably the 3rd most talented team outside of USA and Canada. I would confidently say they're the 3rd most talented team just on paper. And you look at some of the players on Finland that kind of buries a player like Erik Haula. Lucas Raymond, Kempe, Eriksson Ek, William Nylander, Gabriel Landeskog, Mikko Zibanejad. They've got a lot of guys. Team? Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm looking at Sweden. I'm sorry. I'm on my notes here. I'm sorry. Where is Finland? Oh, Finland's down here at the bottom. I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, Max. That's why you have co-host. I just named Sweden. I apologize. So yeah, for Finland. It's Rupe Hintz, Eli Tolvanen, old Preds fans.
I didn't know.
Tolvanen's playing big minutes, actually.
Wow. Okay.
For Finland. Mikko Rantanen, Sebastian Aho, Mikael Granlund, another former Preds player. Yep. So, Finland's deep, and that's why
Miro Heiskanen must be on defense for them. Yep.
No, I was just naming forwards. But that's why Erik Haula is, he's getting 10 minutes, 12, 11 minutes a game. He's not getting maybe 15 shifts around there. He's not, but he got a couple assists in that blowout against Italy. He's got 3 assists. It's still cool to see him out there. And then let's talk about Filip Forsberg. And I want to put a tweet on the screen to really.
All I've heard about him is his lack of ice time.
Exactly. That's what I'm about to get to here. And some prominent NHL accounts have criticized Sweden for this. And I'll look it up. But yeah, in the first game of the opening of the Olympics for Sweden, Forsberg had 1 shift. Saw the ice
whole game?
The whole game. One shift.
Which that equates to how much ice time? Like a minute?
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean,
If
it was against Italy. That was Sweden's opening game against Italy, which they only won 5-2, which is not an impressive
only
final
5-2.
score. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean to Italy here, but it's just the facts. But
right.
let's see. I got to find this because it was a really,
Crazy.
oh, where is it at? But yeah, he only saw one shift in that game, and then in the next game, he got up to 9:31 of ice time, 13 shifts. But that was the 4-1 loss to Finland, and then finally against Slovakia, which was a 5-3 win. His ice time, Forsberg's ice time went up to 11:45, 4 shots on net, and he had a primary assist on Pettersson's go-ahead goal. So at least he finally got a little bit of action in that one. But yeah, Forsberg's looking to see more of the ice. And as I try to find this tweet, I could have swore there it is. This is from Pete Blackburn, pretty popular account that shares a lot of fun takes on the NHL all the time. Definitely want to go follow him. But let me get this on the screen for the viewers at home. And I just when I came across this the day that he put it up here, I was just like, wow, like this just speaking my language, speaking my mind completely. But right here, Phil Forsberg getting fewer than 10 minutes in a game where Sweden can't buy a goal versus Finland is insane behavior.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Got 2,000 likes, 96 retweets by Pete Blackburn.
I'm glad that more than people outside of Nashville are saying this.
I mean, it's crazy because I got Finland's roster and Sweden's roster mixed up there, but let me go back to Sweden's heavy hitters, some of their top players who are NHL players, and it's not overwhelmingly like, oh my God, okay, I understand why Forsberg's not getting a lot of ice time. It's not like Forsberg's on Canada, right. Then it would make sense,
or even USA.
But I mean, I just don't understand why he's not getting a little bit more ice time. We'll see if that changes in the qualification round that Sweden's got to face Latvia. And then if they take care of business and beat Latvia as the favorites, then Forsberg and Sweden can be up against Team USA. So you might have some conflicting interest there. I'm still going for Team USA. Sorry, Phil. I'm always going to cheer for my country first. But let's see if Forsberg can see a little more ice time. Or if they don't really switch too much, if Sweden's coaches don't switch too much and Forsberg continues buried on Sweden's depth chart there, not even getting 10 minutes of ice time is insane to think about as a Preds fan, right? Yeah. Think about Forsberg getting that little of action. But yeah, so there's that. And then also I want to put on the screen what Polymarket. I want to talk a little bit more about Team USA and Team Canada and talk about the odds right now for Team USA to win the gold and what Polymarket is saying about the odds for Team USA and Team Canada. I'll get this on the screen now. Polymarket's the best. I mean, they are so on top of everything when it comes to sharing the odds on things all around the world, not just sports. But let me get this here, and there it is. So there's your odds right there. And you got Team USA has not won a gold medal for ice hockey since 1980. Of course, that was the famous Miracle on Ice. This is from yesterday, so maybe the odds have changed a little bit since then, but they were at plus 230 TC value this year. Or is Canada unbeatable? Max, how about we ask you that question? Do you think Canada's unbeatable? It's ridiculous how stacked they are.
No, I still think it's going to be them versus USA, and I would say Canada probably wins, but I mean, you never know. I think, I still think, and I know USA, etc. We'll talk about more, but I still think it's them or it's USA or Canada.
I mean, I was talking about this when Canada first hit the ice, and I had already looked at the rosters, but when the teams first started hitting the ice in group action, it's like watching franchise mode and somebody just like built their Frankenstein team on NHL video game and just plucked every superstar in the league and said, let's put them on Canada. And they're all Canadian, so it makes sense. But I'm just saying, like, that's how ridiculously stacked Canada is. They come at you at waves. There's no weaknesses. Whoa, let me stop with that. There is one weakness that Canada has, and this is what I think Team USA is going to have to exploit. In my opinion, they're going to have to really exploit Jordan Bennington. They're going to have to. I mean, because I think Canada's going to get their goals. You can only hope to contain them, as they say. And so I think it's going to be a situation in the gold medal game between these two teams where Canada's going to get theirs. USA has to keep up.
And I will say something about that, and which is not great news for USA, but Jordan Bennington does have a history of like really showing up in big moments.
Four Nations.
For some reason. And Connor Hellebuyck has a reputation for kind of the opposite of that.
You're right. He's got that UC Saros. Hellebuyck's got the UC Saros gene.
No, Connor Hellebuyck didn't do it during the Four Nations last year. Just in general, though, Connor Hellebuyck has had trouble in certain moments. So you never know. I mean, you would expect just on paper that USA has the advantage right there, but I wouldn't be totally sure.
The secret, I mean, they have tons of secret weapons, but really what appears to be Canada putting them over the top from the Four Nations and now is Celebrini. I mean, he's getting compliments now from top NHL players that he is the second best player in the world behind Connor McDavid. That's what people are saying about Celebrini right now as a second-year NHL player.
I mean, the thing that just sticks out for me about Canada when I look at them, just how deep they are down the middle. McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, Bo Hort. I mean, that's just
and look at their power play unit, Max. I mean, you've got a top power play unit of Cal McCarr, Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Sam Reinhart, and Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah, that's just crazy. That's just that's stupid.
It's stupid. I mean, God be willing if you put Canada on the power play. So if you're Team USA, one, you better play some disciplined hockey, and two, I think they're going to have to keep up on the scoreboard because I just think Canada's too loaded to just completely turn this into a defensive game and keep them off the scoreboard. I think I see a scenario where it can be one of the most exciting games we've watched in a long time when it comes to back and forth goal scoring. I mean, I could see Connor Hellebuyck get exposed a little bit. I could see Jordan Bennington get exposed a little bit. Who delivers on their power plays? It could be a big difference maker. And I am looking at that goalie matchup a little bit strongly. Who can be just strong enough? They're both going to probably surrender at least 3 goals each. I would assume.
In USA, Canada?
Yes.
Those games do tend to be a little more low scoring than you think.
I don't see it this way. I don't. I think they both.
Are these rosters that different than they were last year?
They're a little different. They are. They're Celebrini's the big difference for.
I guess he is.
But
other than that, though, is there really a major difference?
There is not major, but there were some changes. I'd have to go back.
I wouldn't be surprised if those are not like totally high scoring games because USA Canada, especially and not just them, but a lot of hockey. Whenever it gets tight, it can really be like trench warfare style. So it could always be I would imagine something like 3-2 or something like it was during the final game of last year.
So Team Canada's roster saw 6 changes from the Four Nations face-off winning team. They added forwards Macklin Celebrini, Bo Horvat, Nick Suzuki, and Tom Wilson, along with goaltenders. Well, the goaltenders aren't really playing, but they replaced. These are the players they replaced. Sam Bennett, Seth Jarvis, Travis Konechny, Aiden Hill. Yeah, so not, like you said, not a ton of changes.
I feel like I've seen Sam Bennett playing for them.
This is the latest. Yeah, this was finalized in early 2026. I mean, maybe there was something that changed. This was published on February 6th.
Could have sworn I saw Sam Bennett playing yesterday. Let me look and see.
It's possible. It might. I mean, AI is not always right.
Yeah, Sam Bennett's played all 3 games for Canada on the Olympics. He only has 1 assist, but he's been playing.
I'm just reading off what this says here. So, and this was from TSN, which is usually a pretty reliable source. And then for Team USA, according to NHL.com, 21 of their 25 players returned. Key additions. Oh, yeah. So this is the one that I should have remembered off the top of my head. Quinn Hughes was the big difference for Team USA because he was injured for the Four Nations. Yep. And then Tage Thompson and Clayton Keller, which Clayton Keller actually got in the game. He was not in the first game.
Quinn Hughes essentially replaced Adam Fox.
Which I'll take that upgrade. I like Adam Fox, but I'll still take that upgrade. And then Chris Kreider was also removed, which, elder statesman, veteran. But so like to your point, Max, not a tons of changes, not a ton. Pretty similar rosters overall from the Four Nations. I just think this is going to play differently. I really do. It's the Olympics. It's a different setup. I don't know. I think it's going to be a more of an end-to-end action type of game. I could be totally wrong, but that's how I'll see. Now, a lot of people think that Team USA has the edge when it comes to the blue line. That's another thing where Canada might be a little weaker than USA on paper is your blue line. So that's another area that Team USA could exploit.
And that's part of the reason I say it might be not totally just crazy high scoring.
This was another. I'm glad Johnny brings this up. So there's apparently, I don't know if you saw this, Max, but Chuck was chirping at Draisaitl yesterday. And he said, always a bridesmaid, never the bride. That's what he said to Draisaitl, chirping him between the benches.
I actually didn't see that part, but I do. I mean, I obviously believe. Last year during the Cup Finals, I'm pretty sure people were describing this one of the more trash-talking, intense matchups they've seen, and that's 2 of the players, right, who were playing against each other.
I'll say again, though, Sweden could be the rain on your parade. You got to take Sweden very seriously, assuming they beat Latvia.
I was a little bit, not totally worried, but I was going into the game against Germany not thinking it was a total cakewalk because Germany does have some they have Draisaitl, obviously, Tim Stützle, Snyder, JJ Peterka, and I don't know if they have any others, but.
Well, and that game started off a little disjointed for USA. It took them a while to get that breakthrough and get the first goal, and then the floodgates kind of opened. And then once Team USA realized they weren't going to overmatch that goal differential to catch Canada for the top overall seed, they pretty much called off the dogs at 5 goals. And it just at that point you're more focused on no injuries, getting out of the game unscathed at that point, because you're not going to score 5 goals in 10 minutes left in the third period. At that point, you kind of go on cruise control in that game. They could have probably scored more against Germany if they really kept their foot on the gas. But anyway, pretty impressive result nonetheless. But yeah, so the poly market odds here as of yesterday: Canada 56% chance to win the gold, United States 30%, Finland 7%, Sweden 6%, and Switzerland 2%. So your 3 teams there that feature Preds players all have below 10% chances to win the gold, of course, but they do have a chance to medal. I would say one of those 3 teams might get the bronze medal. Of course, Slovakia is really good too, so think about them. But I think Finland's or Sweden have good chances of maybe getting the bronze medal. So there you have it there. That wraps up our Olympics talk here. Good stuff there. Now let's talk about DraftKings real quick here in episode 290. And of course, NHL action returns on February 25th. So we're a little over a week away, 9 days away until the NHL comes back. The Preds will start their post-Olympic break against the Chicago Blackhawks. And you've got a 12-day period after the trade freeze to make your trades before the March 6th trade deadline. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice. With player props and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get in on the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get 300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into 300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 8778-HOPENY or text HOPENY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois, 21 plus in most states, void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright NA 2026 NHL. All rights reserved. Let's talk, Max, about what we think. When the trade freeze lifts, do you think that the Preds are going to make these trades as fast as they can, or do you think they're going to run it right up to the trade deadline day before they really want to make these tough decisions on some of these players?
I tend to lean towards that they're going to kind of hit the ground running out of the trade deadline and make some moves. And, because when you think about it, just kind of based on how, we've historically seen. Well, so first of all, knowing where the Preds are in the standings, they have they're 4 points out of a playoff spot as it stands. And the last place team, well, the last wild card team right now, the Anaheim Ducks, they actually have one game in hand on the Preds right now. So it would take the Preds a good bit to, find that playoff spot with how it stands right now. At least 2 games they'd have to win and Anaheim has to lose, whatever it is, So the Preds are clearly have a bit to overcome to even get back in that playoff spot. And we've seen historically that teams typically make that decision on whether to buy or sell about a week before the deadline, which is in terms of NHL calendar time, it's about 5 days from we're about 5 games. The Preds have 5 games till the trade deadline. We already know that if I don't know if you've heard this or not rumor. I don't even think it's rumor because I'm pretty sure Friedman said it, that the Predators were in discussions to trade Michael Bunting to the Islanders until
yes, I did see that
for a draft pick. So it tells you Trotz has already kind of started kicking tires on, these trades, and just knowing, where the Preds are. And especially, I don't want to say the Trotz retirement announcement has too much of a factors too much into this whole discussion, but, just knowing, especially knowing where the Preds are right now. And, I don't, because Trotz has been realistic the whole year, even during the winning streak, saying, I don't know. And, I don't see anything that's been done to change his mind. And, knowing just how close we are to the deadline, I think he's not going to waste a ton of time.
Yeah. And I hope that's what he's thinking as well. You can't, if you get a good enough, you're not going to learn too much more in 5 games.
No.
They've hung around this 2 to 4 point deficit to the wild card for a while now.
Through all the winning they've
pretty much stayed in a very similar spot. And I think I keep repeating this phrase. You have to let the chips fall where they may. You can't jeopardize the long-term health of this franchise just so you may or may not sneak into the wild card. You can't. It's not worth the gamble right now. There's too many things at stake. There's too many free agents coming up. There's too many assets you need to be building through the draft right now, and also your prospect pool, which, there's a lot of scouts out there who have taken notice and said that the Preds prospect pool has definitely improved a lot over the last few years. They've made some really good draft picks on paper, especially the last couple years. But it's still, we have to be a little bit more patient before we start seeing the returns on those draft picks. Your Tanner Mollendikes and stuff like that. Like, we got to be patient here. Brady Martin, Igor Surin. Right now, this franchise desperately has to build through the draft and build through the prospect pool more and more. And also, if they're going to do any of these trades, they got to do everything they can to get a center back in return. some type of a young center.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to necessarily be NHL ready, but definitely NHL potential, future potential. That's what Trotz has to be shopping for right now. He has to be shopping for another NHL caliber, future caliber prospect that can play center. And, I haven't got a chance to throw this out there, or actually I did. In the last episode, the solo episode, I got into this. But Max, I wanted to float this at you. I'm sure you've seen me share this, but I think that Matthew Wood should be tested at center. If not for the rest of this season, definitely in the off season. Because the dude has played center. That was his original position. He has the physical makeup to play center. And right now, if you look at the pipeline for the Preds, they have plenty of wings. They have plenty of wingers who can come up. They don't have anyone to turn to for centers. I'm not saying it's going to be a foregone, oh my God, it's going to work. I think it's worth exploring. And it sucks that you're in that position, but when I look at the Preds pipeline, they just don't have anything. We've talked about this ad nauseum the last few episodes. And so I think that that's worth exploring, judging by what comes out of the trade deadline and what we get back in return. Because you've still got to figure out if you're going to trade a combination of McCarron, Haula, or O'Reilly, which it seems like O'Reilly's not going anywhere. That's pretty much feels almost not a 100% certainty, but certainly very close to 100%.
Unless Trotz gets a huge package for O'Reilly, he's not going anywhere.
Everything I've seen from the insiders, including Elliot Friedman, is that O'Reilly does not want to leave this team.
And I wouldn't expect any the big name guys to be moved at all.
Any of the big name guys, not Stamkos, except for Marchessault. Except for Marchessault.
I kind of imagine, I imagine if the big name guys, I imagine if that happens, that'll be an off-season thing.
So you think that they're going to just do some little trades, some depth trades?
I think they're going to, I could see them, first of all, they're going to deal with the guys on expiring contracts. That's for sure. They might make some other moves if they can, but from what I've heard, let me look at a tweet I saw about 10 days ago.
While you're looking for that real quick, I just want to share with everybody. These are the 5 matchups the Preds have before the trade deadline. They host Chicago coming out of the Olympics. Then they go on the road at Dallas. Then they come home on Monday to host Detroit, and that'll be a back-to-back. Then they'll play Columbus on the road. And then the night before the trade deadline, which is on Friday, they will host the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
So there's your 5 matchups there. Go ahead.
What I was going to say, and I will say I saw this on Friday, February 6th, so 10 days have passed, but no NHL games have passed since then, so I wouldn't imagine a ton has changed on this front. Elliot Friedman said on the Preds, I think they're going to listen on O'Reilly, Stamkos, Marchessault. I don't think on Josi. I don't think Saros. Shea possibly. Bunting, yes. Haula, yes. Smith, yes. McCarron and Perbix, yes. And I did see another tweet that said something that it was probably going to be an off-season thing for the bigger guys. But you kind of see the wording on that tweet saying, I think they're going to listen on O'Reilly, Stamkos, Marchessault, and yes on the other more depth guys. So you kind of see you can see the wording in that tweet versus saying, I think they'll listen on the other guys, but I wouldn't expect from that and everything else I've seen, I would expect the bigger guys to be an off-season thing. But again, but there's still a few other guys, Bunting, Haula, Smith, McCarron, Perbix. And of course, I wrote the article on why Haula, I think it's possible he could be extended, but it kind of tells you that I think they're going to focus more so on the guys, the guys in more role player type guys.
Well, ever since the Preds went on this heater and they've hung around the wild card, I never bought that they were going to trade O'Reilly. I never bought that they were going to trade Stamkos. Marchessault, I continue to say that they've got to do everything they can to trade him. They can't give him away. You don't give away a player like that, but you definitely have to be working. In my opinion, you should be prioritizing.
If there's one they're going to get rid of at the deadline, it's going to be him. But what if they can? How can it work out?
I think they can work it out. I really do. The biggest hiccup with his contract, it's not the AAV. It's the length. And his age. You got to find it. Well, there's a couple hiccups. That's the main one. Another hiccup is he's very particular about where he wants to go.
Yeah,
very particular.
And he has a no movement clause. So He holds cards at the end of the day.
It is his ultimate decision.
Yep.
But a lot of the insiders have said he's behind closed doors. He's willing.
No, I bet.
It's not like the situation with O'Reilly or Stamkos where they seem like they want to see this through with Nashville. You know, I think Marchessault is very hungry to get out of here for the right situation. But it's a very, and I've said this plenty of times as well, it's a very small box you're having to operate.
Everyone in this situation is trying to have their cake and eat it too.
I would be my ideal, and I'm going to ask you this too. My ideal trade deadline situation would be figuring out a way to have a very strong flip of Michael Bunting, even though I've really appreciated what Bunting has brought to this team. He has absolutely surprised me in what he's been in his value, his short-term value that he's given to this franchise. I have a new appreciation for the way Michael Bunting plays. He lets it all out there. He plays hard. He plays his role well. And I wish him well, but I think that Trotz needs to definitely flip Michael Bunting. That's just obvious.
Yep.
Erik Haula approach cautiously.
Yep.
As you said, Max. But I think that I would rather keep Haula and trade McCarron.
I agree.
And that's nothing against Michael McCarron either. It's nothing against any of these guys. But you definitely got to trade some combination of McCarron or Haula. They're both UFAs. You got to trade one of them. You can't take two UFAs into the offseason that both play center and risk losing both of them. You just can't do that.
Right.
So pick who you're trading there. I would rather trade McCarron and re-up Haula, who I don't think he is like super. I don't see Haula as being a guy that's like gung-ho about getting on the open market at his age. I think if you give him a fair deal and a fair offer for a 1-year deal, he'd be willing to stick around.
1 or 2 year deal.
Yeah. I think he'd rather stay in Nashville than go test the open market. But I could be reading that wrong, but that's how I feel about it. Perbix, is an interesting one. That's another player you could flip. He hasn't been here very long. He's kind of gone through some ups and downs. He's been steady.
He's been steady. That's the biggest thing I say. He's been steady.
He's not moving any needles, but he's very trustworthy. He can be in the places you need him to be.
He's not going to kill you. He's not going to kill you.
So, there could be some playoff teams out there, or not even playoff teams. There could be you could offer Perbix to the whole league because he could fit both situations. He could fit a playoff team's needs, but he could also fit a rebuilding team's needs. You're like, we need a guy like Perbix in here. So I think you could trade Perbix relatively easy.
And the Preds don't have to trade Perbix. He's got another year
to
deal for this.
But I'm just going over players that I would be like okay with. I think that, they're trying to walk the line. They said this in the press conference when Trotz announced his stepping down. They're trying to stay competitive while also trading. That's the line they're trying to walk right now. They don't want to completely rip this team apart while they're going for the playoffs, but they're also realize the situation they're in, and they can't just ignore the fact that they've got a lot of free agents coming up and they've got to make some decisions. So it's going to be fascinating to watch. I think the Preds are one of the, I'm not saying this just because we cover the team. I think the Preds are one of the more fascinating teams to watch at this year's trade deadline of all the NHL teams. But I do agree with you as well, Max, except for Marchessault, who I would consider a big time trade player. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to trade any major players. I don't see him making any big splashes with, like Stamkos or,
some of those probably because they can't. Like the tweet I mentioned that it was Friedman's words even mentioned Brady Shea, but of course they couldn't trade Brady Shea if they wanted to. No one's gonna.
No, I've never. That's one of the few players on this roster.
That's not just on the Preds. That's one of the more immovable contracts in the whole league.
That's one of the few players on this roster that I'm like, yeah, that player's not being traded. Like
I think you said it. I think you said it best a few months ago. We are so stuck with Brady Shea, it's not even funny.
And funny enough, I mean, he has played a little better this year. He hasn't been completely awful. Still nowhere up to his contract. But, also when we did our free agency episode back in 2024, we said we graded each signing and we didn't like the 7 years.
No,
I remember it was like it was yesterday, Max. You said, 7 years.
That was the one contract I looked at and I was like, that's the one that really scared me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just like,
And I wasn't even really sure he was a 7 million player either, like even $7 million player.
All right, real quick before we get out of here, I do want to take a quick look at the pipeline one more time, and I want to look at who could we see come up after we trade some of these players. And I think Zachary Leroux's the obvious
Yep.
one, right?
Yep, definitely Matthew Woodson to come back. I'm going to go back for a second. I never actually, weighed in on, my thoughts on him at center. I don't think it's horrible, mainly from the idea that, like you kind of said, you got nothing really to
I
lose.
call it a shot in the dark.
I mean, there's nothing really to lose there because there's nothing else there. If it doesn't work, oh well, it's fine. We just kind of go back to the situation we just had. You can only really gain from it, but I wouldn't go into it expecting it to go great.
I think it makes more sense doing it in the offseason.
I agree.
Go into training camp, trying him out on a line, seeing how he responds
doing it like right out of the Olympic break could be.
No. I always kind of meant it more towards the offseason, training camp, maybe try it in the preseason, maybe even the last week of the regular season if the playoffs are over and done with, you're not making it, and you need to plug a body somewhere. Maybe you could try it. It's totally what I call an experiment. Right. It's not something I am just 100% confident in.
Right.
But when you're a team that's so depleted of resources at that position, you've got to try some things. But let's go through this. So definitely Zachary Leroux. I think fans will be extremely excited after the trade deadline to hopefully see some roster space open up for Zachary Leroux to play the rest of the season for the Preds. He hasn't played this season on the Preds. He did have injuries that didn't help his cause, but also the roster was just kind of log jammed a little bit for him to not really have a room to be called up. But so that's a player we definitely expect to see. Matthew Wood, of course, will be called back up. Fedor Svechkov, do we think we see him again this year?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Partially because how thin, as we mentioned, the center pool.
Yes,
center
thank
pool
you.
is.
Yeah,
But
of course.
even still, like I'm not worried we won't see him again. I mean, who knows how he'll be? But I could see this stint back in Milwaukee really helping him out confidence wise. Getting back.
I agreed with that decision 100%. He was clearly struggling.
Yeah.
He went through it's very tough for these young players to play a prominent center role in this league. It's a very challenging position. And he's got to go through those growing pains. Reed Schaefer, who looks so comfortable early on in his NHL career, he plays his role very well. I would expect to see him back at some point. So that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. They have plenty of options that can play wing.
Yep.
It's the center position that's got him hung up. But those are mostly your forwards. Joakim Kimmel.
I wrote an article a few weeks ago. I mentioned he's one I think they'd like to bring back up, but again, he's one of those you really have to find the right spot in the lineup for. You're not putting him on your hard checking fourth line.
Those other prospects we just mentioned kind of are ahead of him anyway.
And they're more tweeners. Like they
can make it more. That makes it even more difficult to get him up right now with all those other prospects that also play his position that are definitely more NHL ready than him. So I think we have to be a little bit more patient with Kimmel. Definitely we'll look to maybe see him out of training camp next year for sure. And then going further down, Edstrom is the other center prospect that people bring up all the time, but we don't know much about him. And his NHL ceiling is pretty limited at best.
I've literally said again in the other article I wrote about the prospects. If he comes up, it's probably due to necessity.
Yeah, like you just don't have anybody.
Right. Like
you just need bodies at that point. And then defensemen, I mean, you look at the defensemen, 7 non-roster defensemen that are listed on Puckpedia right now for the Preds. Tanner Molendyke's a next year player, most likely. Would you agree, Max? We're not going to see him debut.
Yeah, I mean, there's just too much.
Why would you rush him up there
on the left side?
And there's no reason to force him up there if you don't have to.
Right.
I mean,
I wish there was more. Again, I've said it before. I do think some of the moves Trotz has made back there have been really kind of counterproductive getting up in Nashville. He may not be ready. Obviously they know more than I do, but I don't know. I wish his path to get up was a little easier.
Yeah, I will definitely see him next year for sure. If not, Andrew Gibson's another a defenseman prospect that doesn't get talked about a lot, but he should. He's going to be in the prospect pool for a little bit longer, so who knows if we could maybe he's a right shot defenseman. Let's say Perbix gets traded. Maybe you give Andrew Gibson a call up and see how he does.
I would think it would be Ryan Ufko before him.
Possibly. I'm just saying we haven't seen Gibson yet. Maybe they want to get a look at him. But those are your defensemen, and then of course goalies. We don't see anything changing there. So that's kind of a quick snapshot of your prospect pipeline and what could happen after the trade deadline. So a lot to dissect there, a lot of digest as we wait for the Olympics to wrap up, and then it's full steam ahead for the Preds to see if they can somehow navigate a tricky trade deadline and also return to the playoffs. If they pull that off, if they somehow have a successful trade deadline and accomplish their objectives and then deplete their roster a little bit, but still find a way into the playoffs, I mean, then it will be an absolute home run of a season for this franchise, considering what they came out of with 68 points the season before and what we were staring at going into this season. And then also the fact that your GM announces he's stepping down. You had a head coach who was on the hottest of hot seats early on in the season. I mean, all these things went wrong up until like Thanksgiving. And then if they can somehow just crawl their way into the playoffs while still having an effective trade deadline and trading away some key assets, getting some draft picks, getting some prospects, then I will call this season a success. Even if they get swept in the first round, I will still call this season a success.
Yeah, no, I think that, you can't ask much more at that point. I mean, and, I know a lot of people, there's might be some people who don't actually want to see the team in the playoff, but if you control, doing the right thing at the deadline and you still make the playoffs, then I don't see any reason to complain.
There's nothing to complain about at that point.
Right. Yeah.
All right, guys. It's been a fun episode. This has been a matinee Olympics edition episode of Catfish and Ice, episode 290, with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg, your hosts, with DraftKings promo code THPN. Hit subscribe on YouTube. It really supports the podcast and helps us out. Throw us a comment as well. We love hearing from you. You can follow us on social media on X at Catfish Ice, on Facebook at Catfish Ice, where we also post our live episodes. Throw us a follow on Facebook if you're more of a Facebook person, and we'd love to hear from you there as well. So everyone have a great rest of your week, or start of your week and rest of your week. And we will be sure to see you next time after the Olympics and when we start back with NHL action. So take care, everybody. See you later.
See you guys.